What happens when a football coach decides to revolutionise the building industry?
I really felt like there was opportunities to build a team. You can build a nice team and it doesn't have to be just about how many hours you put in on site.
Sam and Brendan from Dunne Constructions challenged everything the industry said was impossible.
We had a conversation and I was like, do you reckon we could do that?
Their approach to building luxury homes on the Mornington Peninsula isn't just about the house.
It is an absolute privilege to be able to take an enormous investment and create someone's dream.
Today, we explore how they created Australia's first 4-day work week for builders, why their clients become lifelong friends, and how they redefined what it means to deliver a product. This is Building with Heart and Soul.
Welcome to the Inspired Builders Podcast, your source for game-changing conversations with Australia and New Zealand's leading builders and industry experts. Each week, we deliver real stories and proven strategies from those who've been in your shoes. Ready to build something remarkable? Let's dive in.
Sam, Brendan, thank you very much for coming up here. And thank you for making the decision last minute to actually come up in person rather than do the story development online. And you guys had a great day from what I heard from the team and from you guys yesterday. The other cool thing I know you mentioned in one of the emails to the team was you were grateful for the time, or we told you to emphasize the team module. How did that, before we jump in the podcast, which there's so much I want to unpack with you guys, but yeah, maybe before we go, just touch on that. What was that like for the team? And yeah.
It was so good for the team. Yeah. And I know I'd had a conversation with you, JP, and you really honed in. We do this team exercise and you guys need to do it with the team. And that in the past you'd had a bit of pushback from certain people. They're like, oh, do we really need to do it with the team? And I always knew we were going to do it, but I certainly had the hesitation of how are they going to respond to this and what's the uptake going to be like? Because we've got a pretty cruisy little family. And we did it. We all got together and had lunch. And then Brendan and I left, drove away separately, and both called each other instantly and went, oh my God.
It was literally as we were leaving the car park, we were both ringing each other.
We're like, wow. And we both sort of just had this awkward silence. We're like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And the insights that came out of it. Yeah. And I think we know our team so well. They're literally like our family.
Well, I've coached 3 of them in football personally. So I've seen their home lives and coached them when they were younger. Yeah. And to see some of their responses to the questions, I was like, wow, it was like a big moment for me because I've seen them probably mature a lot. Yeah. And we've noticed that in their work, but never really vocalised or asked those sorts of questions. Yeah.
And we think they have this amazing work ethic and culture, and they have bought into our team so much. But then to hear them articulate back to us, this is what we love, this is why we come to work.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps here and there.
Everything that they said.
I was crying pretty much.
Everything they said aligned with exactly what we say about why we do this.
Okay.
And so it was just epic to hear.
And we didn't prompt their answers. We just read it out. There was 2 or 3 times where I just went, whoa, that's deep. That's deep. And that's what I loved about it. Yeah. And there was long pauses before a couple of them because the questions are quite hard. Well, the questions are hard if you
want to go,
are engaging in them
deep.
properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what the moment was for me. It's like there was a couple of times where I thought it was really deep, and there was only once where I said, well, I'll answer this question because I haven't heard that. I didn't want to know what the questions were going in. Yeah. Sam had read them. I just wanted to hear them and see the response.
Yes.
And I answered it. And then just to see their thought process, there was like an aha moment for me. It was like, oh, wow, they care. Like they're actually thinking about this. And I don't think we would have ever asked those sorts of things without the question prompting. Yeah. I thought it was going to be an epic failure. We thought about not doing it. We did. We really did.
And like that response doesn't surprise me because we often get that.
Correct.
Because it's, no, like my team, they know what we do.
Yeah.
And the vision is in your guys' head. You've just come out and doing the vision module. So then to run through that, it is way more efficient to sit down and just nut it out yourselves. But the impact it can have on the team.
Massive.
One, it helps us glean even more information, which is very helpful. But a big thing we started to see a few years back was, oh, wow, the builders that really invest time in this with their team, the team buys in more and the company goes places because you need a team to take the company
and we've
places.
already spoken about, like, this is something we need to do more of. We need to go out for lunch and have these in-depth conversations, not toolbox meetings like how's your weekend and all that. We need to do more of that anyway, but let's delve in a little bit deeper into how people feel and act, and that affects our work. But we never talk about nuts and bolts. Like, we need to have more lunches where we're talking about the team, people, the environment.
And then we walked away and went, they felt just as rewarded for having those conversations as we did.
Yeah, being asked and being listened to. Yeah,
and a couple of them were like, that was awesome, thanks. And we're like, oh, wow, okay, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So I think it just solidifies all the things that we've always thought and believed and sort of had in the background. They do exist, and they exist outside of the two of us, and that this is a team, this is a big picture.
Yeah.
And it's hard in the hustle and bustle to sit back and go, we need to do this. Yeah. Because 1 year goes into 2, 3, 5, and next minute it's like, I haven't had those conversations.
Interesting you're saying you want to do more of this, and I definitely encourage you to do that. We had a client, similar response. Team really took it up well, and they also wanted to do it. Come a year later, they hadn't made time for it. And so they begged, like, can we just go through that module again as a team? So they went through it again in year 2. And they also noticed the difference between those that were there at that milestone, call it that, of going through the module as a team.
Yep.
And just being around the table, hearing people's responses, agreeing to those opinions on things and mindsets around things, compared to someone who was, say, hired into the team after that point.
Yes.
Okay. Let's say the 12 months after.
Yeah.
And so then they just were like, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Let's put the whole team through this again.
Yeah.
And it also shows, it sounds like your whole team really bought in it, which is fantastic, which is something I want to touch on soon in terms of the coaching background, because that's something that's fascinated me. But you also, we've seen from feedback from our builders, you can see who buys in, who doesn't. And then that can highlight, okay, this person is a long-term player and this person isn't. So epic. Well, let's jump into more. There's so much I want to unpack here. So one thing that I have always, I love and we love, and it just, in some ways it affirms what we do, is just the difference between every builder we talk to. And if we start at the surface level, you guys all build, and you can, even that is something I want to unpack further in this focus. But that's, but the more you get to know someone, the more you understand how unique they are. So that's what I'm excited to run through some stuff today with you guys. But also, where we're going to start with you guys is kind of, going back to where, I guess, the love for even moving into this space began, or even prior to that. And often the response is, when I was little, or this happened, or I was exposed to this, and then this came. And you get some people who might respond to that, and we've heard that feedback sometimes, like, it sounds like everyone's the same. And you're like, okay, then you need to go back and listen to that, because that trigger might sound the same verbally, or, yes, I saw my dad be a builder. That's one we've heard before, but what was your childhood like? That would influence how you interpreted your dad as a builder. Was it a positive? Did you want to do things differently, or you want to be just like him? And then from then on, everything is influencing you differently. There was a quote, I don't know if the words, here it is. It's right here on my laptop. I wrote it down 2 weeks ago. Success is the aggregate sum total of small, seemingly insignificant choices that, when compounded over time, create the trajectory of our lives. And that, I think, is just so true. It's the little things that happen that then can change someone's trajectory hugely. I'm going to stop talking. Start asking questions.
I've heard that one before, so it's good.
That's a good one.
For you guys, maybe I'll start with you, Brendan. Where did building start for you?
Well, building started from childhood. So father was a builder.
Okay.
So school holidays on the building site. Back then we didn't have iPads or anything like that. So Dad brings the offcuts of building blocks back home, and they were our toys pretty much. Yeah. Whether we made them into cars or we threw them like discus or whatever it was. But that was my childhood. So it was sport and either on site with Dad on the school holidays and stuff like that. So that was my first exposure to it. Then I finished VCE, and there was this
VCE for
year 12. Okay. So I think it's HSC up here, is it? Yeah. So same thing. Okay. So I finished that, and it's like uni building. Yeah. Was really keen to maybe go down the sports route. So sports management, stuff like that. Okay.
Sports have been a big part of your life?
Yeah. So love AFL footy, love golf. You know, if you asked me when I was a kid, being an AFL footballer would have been what I wanted to do. Yeah. And then I was looking at golf course architecture. I nearly there was a course up in Queensland that was doing it at the time. So we're looking at things like that. And then I spoke to the careers officer at Peninsula, the school I was at, and he just put all the pros and cons out there, and you know, things like working outside, people, all these sorts of things. And he said to me that I think you're more suited to going down that building path.
Wow. I do find it fascinating though that you were interested in architecture, golf course architecture, and then today, fast track a few years, you are building architectural homes on golf courses.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's funny how things.
And I just look at the.
He looks at the golf course and be like, "I would do that different."
The first green, and so we went down that path. Just did my apprenticeship with the old man, and worked through. Then he was really keen to retire, and then I took on more and more responsibility. And for me, it was I could do it way different, and wanted to do my own style and go on my own path. Sam and I met when we were young, so in year 10, I think. Okay. And we met through we're actually doing a night school sports management course, so that's how we met. Okay. So and and it's just something we spoke about, and it was like, let's have a go at this.
In some of those early chats, I mean, you were exposed to building very early on. You guys met early on, no doubt. Conversations would have begun. What were some of the things you saw? And then obviously this careers advisor saying maybe more building route for you. Yeah. And you thinking, well, I like and I don't like certain things about what I saw with my dad and the way he ran things. Yeah. And I'm sure you have a huge admiration for your dad. Yeah. What were some of the things that you say wanted to do differently that you saw him doing? Yeah,
the old school building industry is just cutthroat. Okay. Everything's just bang, 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 bang. Everyone's yelling at each other. It's just not my style. Yeah. So I really felt like there was opportunities to build a team, which I've coached footy and stuff like that. So it's like you can build a nice team, and it doesn't have to be just about how many hours you put in on site and all that. There actually can be a culture piece. Okay. And an environment where you can go be a builder and enjoy it. We know it's a cutthroat industry and there's timelines a lot of the time and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean like it has to be a negative environment to rock up to. And I think that was the biggest thing we spoke about, that we could make a big difference. And in turn, people wanting to go to work because they love it and want to be there rather than it just being an income stream. So it's a total, for us, it was like there's probably a total difference there. There's a difference to just rocking up to work because it's your job, opposed to waking up and going, I want to go to work.
Yeah, totally.
To be part of the team.
Yeah.
And we've been able to achieve that, and I think we're continuing to grow that, and it's exciting to see it come to life, yeah.
And I think a lot of the industry is still that way. That's the challenge for us, is what you saw early days and what we came into early days. We just kept questioning it and saying, okay, I get it. It's that way, but does it have to be?
Yes.
And even today, we still come up against stuff and it's like, it doesn't have to be this way. And I think Brendan's personality naturally brought that upon, and then it just compounds from there to say, why do we have to do it like that?
Yeah.
And at every step of the way, when you step back and you question that, it's like, well, we just proved you wrong. And that's something
it's actually funny. There's a few things that we do, which we might touch on later, but we're doing them for a while and they were before other people were really doing them. And we've tracked our productivity and we actually know it's more productive. But that mental hurdle for people is like, why do you do that? Like you don't do that.
Yes.
But then
like we're not a tech company. We're not,
But
it's like, well, we've tracked the productivity. We actually get through more.
That's amazing.
Our staff's happier and they want to be here. So for us, it was a trial that was going to be 6 months. That's now 4 years. And
one thing I've also really liked just with some of our previous chats and even yesterday's little chats at lunch and that around the idea of not can it be done different, but how. How can it be? Because just putting the how in there shifts it to there is a different way and we're just going to find it.
Yeah.
Not as opposed to can it be done different and the first person you ask says no and you go, oh, okay, well then we'll just go back to doing it the way it's always been done. But how insists there's a way, we're going to find it and we'll filter the information that comes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also we always say, figure it out, have a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be lost from saying, let's give this a go. And then if you step back at the end and you say, it just didn't work out, but we learned something.
Yeah.
And that's a massive opportunity in life to say, well, we learned something and that's fine. And I think too, there's so much experience through football and coaching and community sport that we've been involved with. But we've also always stepped in from the business and said, well, maybe this industry does it like that, but there's 25,000 other industries who may have not the same problem, but a similar issue. How do they do it? And can we learn from them and bring that in? Just because no other builder does it, how do other industries do it? How do other people do it? And we've learnt so much from people who have got nothing to do with our industry.
Yeah.
But we're like, how do you guys do this? How would you tackle this? What are your thoughts on this?
What's one example of that for maybe people listening to this trying to actually apply that as a case study? What would be one example?
What Brendan was touching on before is the 4-day work week.
Okay.
This is actually where it all started. So way back before COVID.
Yeah, way before COVID.
It started after, have you read the book Let My People Go Surfing?
No.
Okay, so
wrote
it's the guy who started Patagonia.
Yeah, amazing book.
Best
Have
book
to
you
read
can
it.
ever read.
Okay, I'll put that down.
Put it down. So he created a culture way back in the 60s and 70s about this lifestyle balance with the business they built. And obviously they're into, surfing and outdoor sports and everything. And if the surf was good, they all left for the day and went surfing. And that was fine. And he had no work structure. It was just like, if the surf's good, you go surfing. But then you come back and you do your work.
Yeah.
And their productivity was really high.
Just that culture. Like looking at the surf's good, let's go surfing. That has such a bad rap on the Gold Coast. Where it's like, oh yeah, my tradie or my painter or my builder didn't turn up because the surf's up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this whole notion around the 4-day work week had kind of drip fed into the media a little bit in tech. Mm-hmm. At some point we had a conversation and I was like, do you reckon we could do that? And at first we were like,
why do you entertain the idea?
Well, Sam floated it. She come to me first and I'm like, no way, it just won't work. And then we actually sat down.
But not even like, will it work? Why would you even entertain the idea? What
because the crux of this whole story really proved to me, if you look after people. And if people feel valued and people feel like they have not a work-life balance, but this beautiful mesh between work and life, productivity goes up. And he actually proves throughout their whole history, not only productivity goes up, they actually made more money. Every time they invested back in like a people-based scenario or an ethical-based scenario, they made more money as a company. So there was just this weird mesh of like an idea to say, well, in our industry, everybody sort of does these weird hours, and they would finish sort of half a day on Friday or have this RDO every so often. I was like, what if they worked longer hours, Monday to Thursday, you know, less breaks, all these little quirks. They still work exactly the same hours, but they finish on a Thursday afternoon and they get 3 days off to do whatever they want.
So we've got some employees with young families and stuff like that. So, you know, they can take their kids to school on the Friday, pick them up on the Friday. And there's an opportunity for them to work if they want to. You know, there's overtime and stuff like that if they want to. So if they want to use it for personal life, that's great. If they want to use it to continue to work, that's great too. And we've seen by giving them that freedom, their enjoyment levels to work for the company are through the roof. But if we do get to a stage where it's like, hey, we really need you to dig in here and we're going to need you for the next 6 Fridays,
they'll do it.
They'll just do it. And there's no questions asked.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe let's unpack this a bit further, because one thing that always fascinated me as well with you guys is, Sam, when you and I were chatting, you mentioned, oh yeah, Brendan coaches, or Brendan used to coach, and then one time you mentioned, yeah, Brendan coaches his guys on site. And I was like, okay, why do you keep using the word coach? You know, I'd often heard other words being used.
Yeah.
And then the more I listened, I was like, okay, there's something else here. And then just culture became a really big thing. And then, reading some of Andre's notes and chats to you guys. Can you maybe break down where coaching started in your career? Because you've been coaching for a long time. And then why and how you translated that over to building?
Yeah, so was always in leadership roles through my juniors in the sporting fields and whatnot. And then even the first 4 years after finishing school, just continued to have a crack at trying to make AFL. And then just got to a point where it's like, this is going to happen. Probably too slow. And and then got an opportunity to go to a community club where my coach from my school footy team was there. And we coached together for about 5 years. I think he became my best mate. He was total opposite to my old man. So he studied all religions, fascinated by all religions, never really believed in one, but fascinated by how all communities have a seeming like an underbelly to them.
Yeah.
And he was my sort of leveler, because I get a fair bit of anxiety at times, or used to. And then he was a good leveler. And then I learned a lot off him around how people saw him and reacted to him. And
in what way?
He just would walk in the room and everyone respected him, said hello to him. He said hello to everyone. And there was always just a joyous sort of feeling in the room. He was hard when he needed to be hard, and he was a school teacher. So there was a lot of learnings around that. But you see early days, or you take little snippets from everyone, and you're like, that's pretty cool. So I got offered a coaching job when I was 21. I was just about to turn 22, and I always wanted to coach at the end of my footy career, so now pretty much. Yeah. And I remember going home, so Daniel Watts was the guy that approached me, and I said to him, mate, I'm way too young. And he's like, no, we want you to do the job. We think you got the characteristics. I went home and said to Sam, and she's like, well, if you want to coach, why don't you just coach? What's the age matter? So then I rang Daniel and I'm like, oh, let's do it. And within first couple of months, I was just fully obsessed with it.
Yeah, right.
So just seeing how you can learn off every single individual, and that everyone needs something different. And that's, I went on to, and I'm still coaching today, 17 years later.
Maybe to get Sam's input on that.
Yeah.
What shift did you see in Brendan from before and then starting coaching, and then the growth as him as a person, and then obviously with those individuals he was coaching?
Yeah. I think there has to be there's some sort of natural innate ability that you can't put your finger on that Brendan has and has obviously always had. He is a natural leader, but the growth from coaching and the people that we've interacted with over those, nearly 20 years is just exponential. I can't even, and I have learned so much from his approach, but also it's the experiences with the individuals in these environments that just continue to blow us away. And I think it was through coaching that he really showed me you've got to give people something. Like everybody out there is actually just needing something. And what they're needing is someone to see them and hear them. Everyone wants to be seen and everyone wants to be heard. And time again, he was kind of coming up against the same situation. He's like, there's just this kid that needs to be heard. And I didn't really do anything but listen. And the growth piece in seeing some of the transformations of the people and the kids is mind-blowing. You know, I'm so proud. Like his impact on people is incredible. And at the end of the day, I know that you kind of get to a point where it becomes second nature. Like coaching and football and work, it's such an ingrained part of our life, and we don't package it up and it's like, well, work's over there and that finishes at 5 and football's over there. The whole lot in our life is just this big mesh, and we let it into our life a lot. And now I just see the value in that, and I see the value for our kids in that. And it just comes back to community.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing we've learned.
Community
is it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's just about people. So whether it's sales, whether it's building, whether it's tech, whether it's football, it's just about people. And I have pillars where it's community and empathy, and everything else has to fit within that. So you always need to understand people, and then, you know, you need to be empathetic when things aren't going well, and you need to know people's life situations. And if there's always an element of care, and at the core of everything that, you know, all parties know that they're cared for, understood and listened to, then everything goes on a positive graph. It always does. And that's where we really have focused our business direction on. It's like people and culture first, and the building's just a result of all that. And I think that's what our clients really enjoy.
And you've proven that through coaching and through football, and maybe that's where it begins. You had the ability to say, I'm going to create something here, which is a culture. Culture's the way something feels. It's what's not said in the room. And so you create that by putting people at the core, laying this foundation, and then next level the team has success. And then it happens again, and he does it again and again. And next minute there's this proven track record to say, hey, guess what? If you create this culture, it's not just a nice thing to have. It genuinely translates to success.
Yeah.
And then you have that in work next minute. We were like, all right, let's bring a few of those little things in organically. We certainly never sat down and were like, okay, let's create something based upon it. Just happens.
And I remember asking you that. Yeah. And then you're just like, well, it's kind of just how Brendan goes about doing things. And I'm like, yeah, but I would love to understand that. I would love to have it in writing.
Well, it's funny listening to it, because I don't actually, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
So it's funny hearing that, because obviously you guys have had the conversations where I haven't got this thought where I'm going in, that's just how it is. It's sort of become that way over the years. You morph, and, you know, I've employed a lot of footy guys over the years just because you see really good values in them, and, you know, they're young people having a crack.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Yeah.
That adage of high attitude first, skill set second, you get pretty cool insight to see a huge range of guys.
Yeah.
Many of them potentially exposed, or could have the potential to be exposed and move into trade space. But just seeing their attitude, just seeing how they get up from a fall, from a tackle, coming back the next morning after an afternoon session previous. And you go, mate, I would love to have you and your attitude on my team. I'll give you,
And we've always said if they're motivated, if they're good people and motivated, we'll give them a go. And we won't ask what you're bringing to the table. Is over the years, like we've got a really strong trade base now. We use the same people on every job. But early days, it was like, hey, we'll give you a go because I love the way you go about it. You're motivated. You want to have a go rather than you're too young or I'll go for the guy that's been in the industry 50 years. There's no reason why you can't do what he's doing. And if you're willing to have a crack, we'll give you an opportunity. And I think they've repaid us in spades by giving them that opportunity.
I think that's the greatest thing about a trade and this industry. And it's an Australian culture and way of life too. There's fairly low barrier to entry, right? You go out, you get a trade. Most of them start up their own business in some sort of fashion. And all they need is an opportunity. And so I think maybe early-ish on or like into the piece a little bit, we started to realise if we can create something, we can give all these guys an opportunity. And for most of them, they just need that one opportunity and then
they're off. Yeah.
And then that one individual can create a life for them and for their family. And then next minute they can hire someone and that's another meal that they can put on a table and then another. And it's not about a job. It's about an opportunity to create a life.
For how long have you guys had that perspective on what you do?
From really early on. I remember early days having a conversation with a really good friend who owns a business totally different to us, big business. And one day he made a comment to me about the way that he looks at it is not how many staff does he have, but how many mouths can he feed every night. And he's like, because if I have X amount of staff, then I know that most, 80% of them have a partner at home, so that's 2, and then they have a certain amount of kids. And he goes, I just look at it as every job opportunity I can create, that's X more mouths I can feed. And that for me was like, wow, this is so much more. And I look at the trades that we've got now and it's like, yeah, we've given them an opportunity. And I heard it back from one of them one day at a presentation night, and one of them, made a speech and said, Brendan has done so much more than coaching here. He's given so many of us a go at this thing. And that's the brilliant thing about a trade. I think it's gone are the days where it's just a trade. Yeah. You can create an amazing life.
Yeah.
Really amazing life.
I think that concept of giving someone a go and showing them what they are, but showing them, that's something that I'm always excited about, is helping someone see their potential greater than what they thought was possible, and then help them achieve it. And you hear a lot of guys on other podcasts and stuff. Examples that come to mind would be guys that have gone through, say, special forces and stuff like that. They get pushed way beyond what they thought possible. Yeah. And then when they leave the special forces or they leave the military and they go on to other endeavors, and you hear guys that go into starting their own businesses or being actors or being whatever, that is a real core piece of who they then have become. Yeah. And their personality is, whatever it is, I'm sure I can do it because I've done so much more. And I've done whatever. If I think, that's pretty hard. No, I've thought things were hard in the past and I was able to achieve it. So that's incredible to be able to have that influence on the people that you're coaching, whether it be in your team, footy wise or team Dunne wise.
Yeah, and I think we learn so much off them as well. So part of our approach with people and culture, and it's like, we listen to them as well. Like I've learned so much off people that work for us or with us. Indirectly with us. Yeah. So that there's not a hierarchy. It's like we're all in this. It's a community, and I'm learning just as much off them as they're learning off me, and then I'm learning off Sam. Sam's learning off, Colin, and it's all it's good. That's at the end of the day, that's what we say. It's just people. We're all here we've lived our own experiences. Yeah. Sam and I have been together, majority of our lives, but we've still lived very different paths. And if you never dive into the individual, you don't know where people have been and what their story is, and you can't learn off them. So, and that's part of, like, this is why we're here today. You know, like, it's been a big hurdle for me for years. It's just like comfortable. I'm probably the opposite to what I've been doing. Whereas there's been this level of comfort where I thought I was essentially tapped out in terms of I'm giving max at the moment. Mm-hmm. And then we've, you know, had conversations with people, and it's like, no, hey, we you know, there's still so much more growth to be had. Mm. And then I think that's, you know, 90% of the reason we're sitting here today is it's like, no, we've still got a lot of growing to do, and where can this go? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that excites me, and that's definitely one thing, because when Sam and I are having chats, that's a big thing we look for in terms of qualifying who we bring on board. Is there runway, and do you want to go down that runway? Yeah. For someone who's too comfortable, we'd say, look, I don't think we're a fit.
Yeah.
So that's exciting for us and the team to hear. So thank you for sharing that. Going back to, I guess we're backtracking a little bit here, just in my notes that I want to unpack. You were given some advice. And before the podcast actually started, we talked about advice, and I had a good piece from another builder last week, a friend of mine, who was like, well, you know, we were talking about the scenario of a banker and a broker and a accountant and all this stuff, you know, and they'll give you advice and they'll have their agenda. And while their agenda might be to care, they have their lenses with which they look through the world. And so you have to kind of take it piece by piece and put it together. But this friend from last week was saying, yeah, but those people are only ever as good as the questions you ask them. Which makes a big difference then on, okay, well, then I need to self-educate so that I can ask the right questions. Yep. You can give me the world's best hammer. Yep. I need to know how to swing it. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
So touch on maybe some advice, I'll let you unpack it, that you were given when it comes to becoming a builder, and the impact, I guess, that had. Yeah, I'll let you lead.
Yeah, well, I went for my license, I think when I was 27. 27, I think it was. 26, 27. Yeah. No issues with testing and all that. And they're just like, come back when you're 30. We're telling everyone the same thing at the minute. We just want some life experience. So it did actually make me sit back and think. At the time I was a bit angry. Yeah, because
Totally.
You know, I love people that are willing to give people opportunity, and I felt like that was effectively the authority saying, you know, you're just too young and you're not good enough. So,
and not even giving you a chance.
Not even giving me a chance to prove it. So, and coaching from 21 years old, it's like, well, I've already got experience in all, like, dealing with people. Yeah,
which is probably the biggest part where conflict can come up. And
I've dealt with people going through personal issues, mental health issues. Like, these are issues that are probably way bigger than, you know, what I'm going to face in the building game. But anyway, we sat back, and then it gave us a really good opportunity over those 3 years to really go. So as soon as I turned 30, I went for my license the next day. Got it. And it gave us an opportunity to really hone what we wanted the business to be when we took it on. So,
and you'd already been working, like Brendan had been working since he was 18 years old, if not earlier, like through school and all of that. So by the time you sort of sat that exam, you already had 10 years experience, which in hindsight, no, is not a lifetime, but you had such a good practical understanding, plus this life experience through work and coaching. It was like, what do you mean you're going to tell us that we can't do this? And so it was a mental hurdle. And I know that they don't do it anymore. They've taken that whole concept away. But in hindsight, it probably lit a bit of a fire in your belly as well to say, I'm just going to go out and prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And we're going to do this one way or the other and figure out how to do it, and it's not going to stop us.
With that mindset, I'm interested to know, when they said come back when you're 30 and you go, well, I'm 27, so there's 2.5 to 3 years there.
Yeah.
That mindset of, okay, how do I make this work for me?
Yep.
Did you think about, okay, I have 2.5, 3 years. what life experience do I want to really go and get under my belt in the next 2 years?
Yeah, so went to the old man because he was really keen. He was just going to retire whenever I got my license. Okay. And we haven't taken over the business. We've gone on a different path. But I went to him, and those 2.5 years was super focused on running the job from go to woe. So rather than just being a foreman, he's actually quoting.
Yeah.
So we probably got 2 years experience in how the back end worked.
Yeah.
Rather than maybe learning that straight away, which we already knew because we've already done a little bit of that, but it was like fully diving in and what's that look like? What do contracts look like? So probably took those 2 years to really hone the backside of it with contract administration, the legal side of it and all the rules and regs and just making sure you're on top of it. So it probably was a bit of a blessing in disguise. But then you have that mental shift of how clients are reacting to people on site, how they react with other trades, and how we can eventually make that different or better. And I saw a lot in those because your mind's hyper-focused. I saw a lot of not angry, but like there was always this frustration between the client, the builder, or the client and bricklayer, whatever it was. And it was like, this doesn't have to be like this. So what are the issues? And over those 2 years, we spoke a lot about why are these issues coming up? And it all come back to that people, it was just all transaction. There was no thought in this is actually someone's home. They are human beings. The builder's a human being as well. It was just transaction. It's like the job's X amount, you build it for X amount and you move on. And I think we really thought, well, that's where the number one issue is. There's actually no one's stripping it back and making it personal. And that's been the biggest thing that we've, when we first started off, we were doing the smaller renovations and that, but those people, that was the most important thing that they were probably ever doing in their life. The most amount of money they probably ever spent. Wow. And we really respected that and tried to make them at ease as much as we possibly could. And then when issues do arise, because it's the building game, there's always something. Like you can start excavating and you find something that wasn't in the soil report, whatever it is. It was just the processes around how do we approach that and always making sure the client's comfortable. And to this day, touch wood, we really haven't had any issues with clients because it's our whole focus is the end product. Not only how the house looks, but how the people feel when we're handing it over. And we want that to be the most enjoyable process. And we feel like that's what we're trying to create is like the building and building your dream home can be an enjoyable process. It's going to be stressful, but let us take as much of that stress as possible out of it by just making it a bit more personal.
That is definitely something through the interactions I've had with you guys as individuals, conversations with the brand, all that. We touched on it again yesterday, Sam, just the way you define product, which I'll come back to because it is very important. And I would say you'd be the first I've come across that has articulated it the way you have. And that I think is amazing because some people might be on that track, but they haven't stopped to articulate it like that, which then can give a whole new trajectory to things. I'm going to go way back here actually. You guys met young. You guys then thought, okay, we'll do the rest of our lives together, or how was that? Was that
pretty young?
Pretty much.
Okay. We'll be married 15 years this year. We've been together for 21 years. There was a definite moment. So Sam, sports, you went to sports science degree. And then we made this, are we going to have children young or we're going to have them later? So, and then we made the decision that we wanted our kids young so that we could be younger parents because by then we'd made the decision that, this is it. So got our first home, proposed, and then it was like, well, do we have kids now?
Okay.
so that we can be young parents and be able to,
keep up.
It's a bit like that.
And there was always that battle because we knew we had business aspirations and motivations, and we didn't really know what that looked like. But we've always been
And how has that been? Like, out of interest?
I'm not going to lie, it's been stressful at times, but it's been amazing. Like, I don't think we could be doing all that we're doing at the minute and the hours that we're working behind the scenes and that. Oh, well, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. You don't know what the alternative is, but
that's very true. You only know what you have in front of you and work with.
But I think we've always approached everything in life. Well, like, just give it a go and figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, just say yes and figure it out.
And that always makes better stories too, I found. Always much better stories.
We go in with that approach.
Like, even with the baby books and stuff, like, you read them all and that, but then it was like, once we had our kids, it was sort of what instinct was and felt, and our kids have been really relaxed kids, and we feel like there's a little bit of proof in the pudding there that we're sort of, we just let our instincts take over, and if they wanted to sleep then, they slept then. And
but don't worry about what everyone's going to say.
Just do it your way.
Everyone's going to have an opinion.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone has one. Everyone has an opinion on what we're doing now and what we were doing 2 years ago and 5 years ago. And every single time we've done something, we're like, don't worry what everyone's going to say. If we know at the end of the day it's the right thing to have a go at, just do it.
Yeah. One thing I keep hearing consistently come through in this and other chats you guys is you'll go about doing something. It's very different to the grain than the norm. And people question you can't do that. Yep. And then a year later or whatever that time is, oh, that's a really good idea.
Correct.
I'm seeing other people do it, or we're doing it now, and it's like, funny that.
Yeah.
And we always say, I guess the other path was from a really early age, we bought houses that we could renovate and move on because we knew that was an opportunity. When you've got a trade as a skill set, massive opportunity.
Oh, huge.
And work, we didn't know what work was going to look like. And so we didn't necessarily know, is that enough to create a life? Like, should we have this? And so we'd always been really brave in that sense of like, let's do this really difficult. We would buy something in an atrocious
since
area.
we're 20.
Okay. So you guys are professional.
But we would just have a go. It's like buy something in a really bad area that you can see great growth in, live in it, and everyone would have their opinions.
I bet.
Why would you live there and why would you do that? And we just saw a path that we knew in the long run, this is going to pay off. This is not easy now. This is not, we've lived through renovations where we have gutted so much of the house that we've got a camp table and a bucket of water and one running toilet. That's it. And everyone was like, why are you living through that? And at the time it was like, well, we don't have any money for rent because we've put all of it into this property. But 12 months later, we had an opportunity and we've always said, look at the long game and just do whatever has to be done. Don't worry about what anyone says. If you know the big picture is going to pay off, just do it.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
And then I think having children was probably a real catalyst for you going into the design phase. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So Sam always had a passion for design.
Yeah.
But obviously went down to the university and she was lecturing at uni and working in private practice and stuff like that. But then we had a strong opinion on having one of us stay home for the kids.
Okay.
And that was something that we really discussed. Does it look like daycare? And that was a big sacrifice at the time.
That would have been quite a challenging decision to...
Again, it was...
Yeah.
We knew what was right for us.
You stayed home with kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing. It's not easy at the time, but we knew the long game. We were like, that's right for our family, not for everyone.
Not for everyone, but
and
just
we don't,
for us. Yeah.
We always say the way that we've done things works for us, for our family, for our business. There's 100 ways you can do this.
Yeah.
They're not wrong. They're just different.
Yeah.
But we know what's right for us. And that was one of those things. It's not easy at the time, but we make these decisions and we were like, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, we're going to look back on that and go, yeah, that was perfect. And then you have a family and even when Brendan started and then when we started the business, we had no vision for it.
Okay.
It was just it's just a job. Like you got to feed a family but then quickly we saw what it could become.
Okay.
And I think that's the other thing is we didn't go into this with a grand plan, I don't think.
No, well, I think life's very fluid, right?
Yeah.
So it's, it was definitely a plan that would provide for our family. We didn't know where it was going to take us. Like, were we just going to flip homes and create amazing homes, but they were just our own projects? The client-based stuff, and then when we started having those discussions around what that looked like in those 2 years, it was like that's when the vision really started. And then Sam sat there, I'll never forget, and she was like, I don't know whether it was a purpose piece or you were really sitting there and you're like, I think I want to, study the design a bit further. But I've been to university, I've got my degree, I've got my honours, this sort of stuff. I don't want to waste. And again, it was just like, if that's what you want to do, do it.
Let's do it.
So then she totally retrained herself, didn't retrain herself, but upped her skill.
Do you find it was useful having done flips and been involved in the construction space for a while?
Yeah.
To then, having that practical knowledge makes.
And
she was already doing it.
We were already doing it. And I butted heads a lot that learning and industry because people would come in and I
this
see
the textbook
it today.
says.
Yeah.
The textbook says
the textbook says do this. And
I've done that 5 times. It doesn't work like that.
But I would get the information and you learn new things and then I'd go on site and I'm like, hey boys, can you show me how to do this? Because there was, and there still is today, a massive connection piece in the design world that is not translating to on-site.
Okay.
And I mean, we had a conversation.
In what sense? Help
we had a chat
listeners.
with a plumber on a job a while ago, and he just made this comment. He's like, these plans are so easy to work with. And we're like, what are you talking about? He goes, I've worked on job sites that have got a full set of plans and I got to rough in the mixer height and there's no specific height for that mixer. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you make a call and the designer's like, we'll just figure out what you think's best based upon,
the
5
basin,
up the basin or something. And it's like, why should he make a guess on where the mixer should go? We literally work everything down to the millimetre to say, here's where everything needs to go. Because whilst this house or this project is still a frame, it's a shell, that plumber has to come in and run a pipe and we've got to figure out what's the impact of the floor and what's the impact of what's coming. And we're looking forward 6 and 12 months on this compound of decisions and saying, where should I bring in that water point?
And that job flow is just so much easier.
I was going to say, that touches back to what you said earlier in terms of, some of the changes you've made and learnings you've taken from outside and going, okay, well, no, why would you do it this way?
Yeah.
That's going to take longer. Yeah, but the benefit is an insane amount of efficiency if the plumber can come in and go.
And there's people that are doing it, but there's a lot that aren't.
Yeah.
And even just from a project management point of view, if all those details are there, it's so many less walkthroughs, mark outs.
Less questions.
It's all
Less
there.
questions.
Yeah. So,
and nothing has to stop. The plumber turns up and just works and everything. And so
and he's probably so grateful.
because he's like, I could just get it done. And so I would turn up along the way and say, what do you need on your plans? Like, what do you guys want? And what do you need?
yeah, you're very good at that.
Back to asking the right questions. What a
Ask
difference
the
that makes. Huh?
questions.
Yeah.
Because we can do what we're told to do out of the textbook.
Sam asks a lot of
I
questions.
do ask.
That's
But
good.
That's how you learn.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Okay, so you went and studied, and then what happened then? How did you sort of start integrating that more into, I guess, take me from that point, essentially, to sort of where Dunne is today?
Yeah. I think it's a slow and natural evolution for us. We certainly started it not really knowing what that looked like. So we started just with really small interior design projects and we kept the two things separately. So for a long time we had Dunne Constructions and then we were like, we'll start Dunne Interiors and they can kind of live their separate but related lives, not knowing what it looked like. And then I think we continued to evolve the design side based upon the issues that we saw clients having and the issues that we were facing on site. So decisions not being made, getting to the point where the guys are ready for the tiler to come in and they haven't even picked the tiles, or they've picked them, but even once you've picked it, what's the setup? Where are they going? What height are they going to? How are we going to cut into this shower? And so we kept saying, I can make all those decisions for you. And I think we knew from our own projects, if you make all those decisions way in advance, your project is faster, it's more efficient, it's more streamlined.
Well, this is the story that's being put together in my head. You have someone who asks a lot of questions, comes from a self-experienced as well as a design background. Then you have someone who's a coach, runs a team on this project, and today, like, it's grand final, and that's how we run it every day.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, to bring the outcome for the client, your team is not just you and the guys wearing Dunne. It's it's the client, it's the architect, it's the trades. And so if you can, someone asks questions, go back to questions. The questions help you guys train all those parties as a team to get better and better and better and better.
And we consistently say that. It's like, what does everyone need?
We'll be doing it better in 2 years' time than what we are now. Like, it's not.
And we'll be doing it better tomorrow, because we had a conversation yesterday or the day before, and we just said to each other, when we go through that situation again, we're going to take more accountability. And we're going to do it this way, simply because if you assume and you just leave it out in the ether, it's not that person's fault that they didn't articulate what you had in your head. It's our fault.
That's something I want to stop there and maybe touch on, because that's something I always love hearing in our builders. And when I look at builders that they do really well, it's what you said there, which is we take on as much accountability or responsibility as we can. And, that went wrong. It may not have been your fault, but to say, you know what, it's my fault if it happens again like that.
Correct.
What can I do that's where does that come from?
Oh, that's a people piece.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, there's no point squibbling over who was right, who was wrong. The end product and how people feel is the most important thing. So, and then you learn from that, and then next time, hopefully that doesn't happen because the right questions are asked, or there's a little bit more information that you thought you were giving all the information you possibly could already, but then you realise I could just give a little bit more, and that might help understand this. You know, it could be as simple as a hold up in the galvanising of some steel or something like that. But, you know, really articulating that. You'd never get anywhere fighting over who was right and wrong.
No, totally.
Or being the victim.
You never get a good result.
If we go, poor us, they didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah.
And so I think we always come from the perspective of, well, what's the outcome that we're trying to achieve? Like, what am I trying to get out of that situation? I would like it done more efficiently next time. Okay, I can sit here and be the victim and blame all of these people around me, or I can just say, if we want it done differently, how do we do it?
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah. And I think that it's so powerful when you can translate that, not only business, but personal in everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just going to, without, not that I want to ever pity anyone, but I do feel for someone that is stuck in that woe is me mindset.
Yeah.
And they go, why does it keep happening to me?
Yeah.
And they just can't seem to break the chain in their head of actually, I could change this.
Yeah, it's victim warrior.
Yeah.
You get a choice. At the end of the day, you wake up every day, you're either a victim or you're a warrior, and that's how it is. Someone told me that years and years and years and years ago, one of my coaches, and it's just stuck with me the whole time. And then I find myself at times, like everyone gets in those modes. I'm sure there's been days where it's all just getting too much and you're feeling like a bit of a victim, but it's just like, no, I get a choice here. I'm either going to be like that, or we're going to push on and just get on with it, and then make sure that there's a learning from it, and then next time that doesn't happen. And Sam's very strong on that. Sam's, very strong on that. You actually dictate how your mind sees things and comprehends things, and at the end of the day, you're the master of your mind. So that's one thing I've learned a lot from Sam. It's like, because especially when I used to get a lot of anxiety, it's like, do you actually have to be worried about that? Like, You probably don't have to be as worried as what you are, and you're just compounding stuff, but you're letting your mind do that to you rather than...
Yeah. One thing, I don't know, I forget who taught me, but having the mindset of, say there's a scenario, let's say you get an email or a text, there's no context or there's minimal context, there's no tone, there's no facial expression, and it sounds bad. Fretting about that.
Yep.
What good does that do anyone?
Yeah.
You don't have enough information to make that conclusion. Yeah. So right now, I know, have you heard of Schrodinger's cat?
No.
So Schrodinger's cat is a scientific guy called someone Schrodinger, and the concept of put a cat in a box with a vial of some sort of serum, and the serum will eventually break down the substance will break down the container it's in, and the fumes will kill the cat. But due to its instability, you don't know whether it's going to break down, that the substance will break down and expose itself to the cat within an hour of you closing the box or within 100 years. So because you don't know, you have to assume at the same time the cat is both alive and dead.
Yeah.
And so from that, in terms of psychology, it's like, well, then choose.
Yeah.
If you're going to hypothesize this, you get to choose if the cat's alive or dead when you hypothesize something. So to choose, well, I think that person might just need help. They're just looking. They're just needing to be, like, back to what you said. They just need to be seen and heard. Let's take that approach rather than, oh no, the sky's falling in.
Yeah. I know when we first started. Like, you get an email at 11, 12 o'clock at night. Some clients are night shift workers.
I've got a question.
And your phone pings, and I used to just go down that spiral. It's like, oh my God, and then you ring the next day, and it was really not that bad. Like, it was just because of the non-context.
They're twiddling their thumbs on a night shift. That's quite.
And I'm always, and I say it to the kids all the time. It's like, what good does it do you to sit in that emotion right now? Because you can't fix it. You don't know the context. You need a game plan. And then we're going to execute on that tomorrow morning. And until tomorrow morning, you can do nothing about it. So you've got to put it to bed.
This is the next question I was going to ask you is, how do you translate that one to team but to your kids? Because that's...
It's just those constant... I mean, we do it to each other daily. Something will come up and I say all the time, pause, just stop. Stop for 1 second. Step back, listen to yourself and think, am I hearing that correct? And does it need to be that way?
Yes.
And it's the same as, questioning, can we do things better and differently? Question the thoughts and the emotions and the mindset and just say, do I need to feel like this right now? And I say to the kids all the time, coming back to that victim and warrior, I say, what could you have done in the situation differently? Don't worry about everybody else because you can't control them. And we say this in work all the time. I can't control that right now, but I can control this and I can have an impact on this situation. And I say to the kids, like, what could you have done differently? And if you think about it just from a different perspective, and when we very first started, we used to say, put yourself in the customer's shoes, put yourself in the client's shoes. I'd never thought about it like that. And we still do it. I'll say, something will happen and we'll go, just think about it from their perspective for 2 seconds. Like, maybe we're assuming how that person is feeling instead of looking at it through their lens. So the ability to say every decision and emotion we feel is based upon that lens that we have.
Yes.
But we all empathetically have the ability to look through a different lens.
Yes.
And that's, if you can do that, I think it's a game changer.
That ability, comprehending and understanding that there are multiple, I have this image in my head right now of, like, let's say on top of the Empire State Building, and there's multiple of those telescopes to look through down at something, and they each have a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? That understanding, because that's very powerful. Again, going back to someone who's stuck in this is the way, the only way, versus actually there could be another way to look at this. And that will allow me to empathise and bring this person on side.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I never used to read or anything like that, so it just wasn't something that I did. I was just out kicking the footy or whatever. But Sam's loves reading, loves learning. Sam's always a student. She will be till the day she dies. She's always learning. So the mindset stuff that like even that book, Let Them Go Surfing,
Mindset.
and then there's that book
The book
Mindset,
Mindset,
like all those things. I would have never, but Sam's like, you need to read this.
Yeah.
And I'll take a little bit from that. And then early days for me, Jason, who was the guy I spoke about, he unfortunately passed away. He was really ill with cancer, and I used to go around to his house every day. I was talking to him about, you look like, how do you go with having no energy? And he was frail, and he just went, can you hear that bird? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, can you hear that bird? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, let's just think about that. And I was like, whoa. And that I'll never forget that day, because he was just like, we don't need to worry. I'm sick. I'm frail. I don't need to worry about it. So I can either think about how good that bird sounds, and he always drank light beer. And then one day he walked up. We used to always sit under the same tree, and he walked up with little creatures. I go, mate, what is going on here? He goes, mate, I'm going. I might as well have the good stuff now. And it's just like, never once did he sit there, and you don't really think about the lessons that he's teaching you until, unfortunately, he's gone. But never once did he sit there.
He never complained.
And complained. He had a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old, from the time he was diagnosed to the time of death, 6 months, and he just had the best perspective.
Wow.
And he was very learned too. So he's the guy that we spoke about, studied all different religions and communities, and he was just obsessed with that sort of stuff. So I think for me, I'm still learning that. I'm nowhere near where it needs to be, and I know that. But Sam and Jason, who are very learned people and always studying, they come to me with little things.
Good people to be around.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, read this and see what you think.
Yeah.
And if you read something and you take one thing out of it, it was worth reading.
Yeah.
You don't need to enjoy the whole book. And for me, it's podcast now, just so much driving. Yeah. Now in the car between jobs and seeing clients and that, it's like I can listen to this or I can use it as an opportunity to improve. And I think that's the beauty of podcasts and audio books and stuff now. It's just, there's always an opportunity to learn.
Totally.
And I think like you special forces, like I would agree, like some of those podcasts you listen to and you think, wow, their mindset for what they've been through is incredible. How can we be like that? But I also think it's important to know that, there's still plenty of times where Sam's got to go, oh, calm down, like you're stressing over nothing here. So no one's perfect, but just recalibrate all the time. Yeah. And that's how I learned it. It was through the two of them, because I was all the environments that I was around were very much strict, victim, the world's against us sort of thing. And even in a footy sense, like as I was growing up, like you make it all the way through these things and then you just don't make it. And it was like, why, and the guy next to you did, and you're like, why wasn't it me? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's been a massive learning journey over the last 20 years for me. And I think Sam and Jason always wanting to improve themselves has taught me to, hey, let's just keep improving every day. That
if you enjoy that mindset and that concept of going all this way to get to there, and the tiny little thing, it could be that the person judging you on that day was just the wrong person, and you don't get in and you lose opportunity for life. A good book, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, okay.
Really good. And then he goes and writes a second called Never Finished. Two phenomenal books from David Goggins.
I was going to say that's the David Goggins.
Yeah. He's a star.
He's intense.
He's full on.
He's intense. Yeah. What's his line? Stay savage.
Yeah. You're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. So, like you said, there's lots you can take out of that book.
Yeah.
I don't think, I wouldn't be, not sure if my wife would be around me if I was
just
that's
right. So intense.
all the time. So going back to what you guys are creating, and this is something that I've always been excited to have you guys on the podcast to break down, is your perspective on your product. And when you say most builders that I talk to, 99% of builders, 95% of builders, when they say product, they're talking about the home.
Yep.
So they say we offer a quality product. It's because they're meaning the final home, the renovation or the new home, quality product.
Yep.
Quality in terms of the craftsman who put it together, quality in terms of the material and the spec it's finished to, above standard. That's always a big one. Oh, it's above standard, you know. When you talk about product, and this was like, whoa, when I heard this, your product is the Dunne journey.
It's the process.
It's when someone interacts with the brand right through to beyond handover and they're living in it and they continue to have a relationship with you. That is that is your product and that is what you offer to people.
Yeah.
Correct.
Break that down for me because that is just next level thinking. And I think it is so true and it's what actually I think more builders need to understand that that is what you're offering and that needs to be communicated and articulated well for someone to understand, oh, that's what it's going to be different with you guys.
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, by far and large, the thing that I'm most proud of. But we never set out to achieve that. And it's probably only relatively recently that we can really seriously articulate that with pride and just confidently stand in the world and say, this is the product.
Yep.
It's the process and it's the journey that you're going to go along with. And I think we learnt it naturally and organically. And I always say, if you have such deep-rooted values, and ours are in people first, honesty, transparency, it's easy for us. We don't set out every day with an intention to create this. We just believe it in every core of our personal being that it naturally happens. And I think the reason that we've gone down that pathway, and for me, I look at it and I say, well, the bare minimum should be a perfect house.
Yeah.
Anyone can do that because
that's the expectation.
That's the expectation. That's not going above and beyond. And I think, you know, you guys work with so many amazing builders and there are infinite amount of them. Everyone can build an amazing product, but it's more than that. And I think I learnt it along the way. We look at what we do as a real privilege. It is an absolute privilege to be able to take an enormous investment, the biggest single transaction you can make, and create someone's dream. This is not a house. This is not something that, and that's the market that we're in. We have the luxury to do that. We're not trying to build the cheapest possible thing so that it can be sold, and we're creating a dream. And then when you go along that journey, I continuously heard from past experience, we loved the house. It was the worst 12 months of our life.
Yeah.
We hated it. It was stressful. It was traumatic. We hated the builder, or we got to the end and none of us got along.
This is someone who has tried building with someone else prior to coming to you.
Most of our clients have built before.
Have built multiple times.
Yeah.
So we get that feedback, and we're getting that feedback early.
And we just kept going, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why on earth would the bare minimum product be good enough to say, we don't care about the 12 months. We got this thing at the end and we took a whole lot of money. It's like, no way, there's so much more.
It's like saying, I don't care how the car drives, how it feels when I drive in it. It just needs to do, maybe there are some people that there is, obviously there's a market for that.
Yes.
And that is the most important thing. I was going to say this before, is we're really focused now the type of market that we're in because it allows us to go where we want to go.
Yeah.
And I think early days we would go wherever the work was. And sometimes you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be in the bulk building industry, there's not really
there's
time
not space for what we do.
It's just bang, 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 bang. We've got to get, 220 frames up in the next however long. So we really want to sit in that space because that's how we feel
we can
it
add
should
value.
be and how we can add value to the industry.
Yeah.
And we want our clients to have memories and we want them to be able to sit there at the golf club or down at the restaurant or the cafe and go, it was amazing.
Well, the story that I'm not sure which one of you shared it, but one of the clients you built for who's in the community there that you guys are building in, he is very social, has parties, invites you, and he just keeps saying, "Hey guys, this amazing house was actually built by Dunne over here. Go chat with him."
Yeah,
and I just thought that is cool.
Yeah,
that he is.
Yeah,
he must have really loved the experience.
He goes, "I'm down. Yeah, we finished the job 3 years ago." He goes, "I'm just down, mate. You want to catch up for a beer?" Unfortunately, I'm not down there, but yeah, like we really pride ourselves on. A lot of our clients, there is a friendship element there at the end, and that's, I think, because of we have this project going on over here, but the way that we transition through that 12, 24 months and the way we treat each other and hear each other, it's at the end, it was an enjoyable process. They love their product. And then we've also got to know each other on a personal level where it's like there's a friendship there.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. I think that's the rare part.
Yeah.
Is that when I'm not in it for the transaction, because it's part of what I hate about the modern world, to be honest. It's like everything's just so transactional.
Yeah.
It's lost the connection.
Yeah. And it's just like you're there. Everyone's so busy and everyone's lost this connection.
Everyone's so busy and the pace has increased by so much.
Yeah.
It's like I can't afford to have a relationship with you.
Yeah.
This just needs to get done. Yeah.
Well, for instance, getting up here just face to face. Like I said after yesterday.
Brendan's like, I'm so glad we did that.
I'm so glad we flew up here because I was like, why the hell, but again, it just reiterates everything that we believe in. It's like you can't truly get the right amount of special sauce, or you can't truly understand someone unless you get to meet them and know what they're about and how they feel and what their morals are and all those sorts of things. So it doesn't matter what you're in, it's important.
Yeah.
And I think there's a team piece on that. So why now we so confidently sit in our product is this journey and this process is one, because it's better for the client. So at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. And the reason that's the most important thing is if they get to the end and they have loved that so much that they want to pick up the phone and call you for a chat and ask you for dinner, they're not just telling you, they're telling their friend and their neighbour and their other friend and their hundreds of friends, and next minute their friend calls you and done, without any effort or dollars, you got a referral. And that referral is worth more than anything in your business. So from a business perspective, like the relationships are the most important, and that can then flow onto your business. The other thing is, if the client's happy, if we're enjoying the process, our team is enjoying the process, and our guys on site say all the time, we love working here because the clients come, they're happy, they're enjoying it, we feel valued and respected. And next minute, you've got a site that is happy and it's therefore productive, and next minute that does lead to greater success in your business.
The architect said that the other day.
Yeah.
I had a meeting with the architect the other day. He's a very well-known architect, and he goes, "This is the happiest job site I've ever been on." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because for us, we don't see other sites, right? So that's the big thing. Like, I'm not that nosy guy that wants to know what the builder down there. Like, I really respect everyone's doing their own thing, and we'll do it our way. They do it their way, and that's. He's like, well, everyone just is doing their job, and they all are getting along, and there's
no
never
conflict
on here. And I'm like, well, that's really good to hear. Thanks for that, because we don't. It's become the norm for us, but to have this is the first job we've done for this architect. To hear him say that was like, I rang Sam straight away. I'm like, you should have heard what he just said. And that's everything that we're looking for. And that's, the clients will feel the same way. They've had multiple builds before, but like this has just been a great experience. We still have the same conversations. Like, I need this, I need that. I want to change this. All those conversations happen, but they happen in such a,
there doesn't need to be conflict in it. It doesn't need to be a challenge. Yeah. We always say, don't come to the party with a problem, come with a solution and we'll figure it out. There's always a solution. Yeah. And then when we did our team piece the other week, a couple of them said, I don't ever wake up and not want to go to work.
Wow.
I mean,
that was
we were just like,
for us.
Whoa, this is really cool.
That is incredible.
So if the client has a great experience and that transfers to us having a great experience, and then our team wanting to come to work every day, we can then prove on the flip side that increased productivity and that grows your business. And I think that's where it came back to like that very first, that book and this 4-day work week. We kept saying we're proving a point that it's important on a people, like a value component first, but it translates business-wise.
Yeah.
So you can't sit there and say, oh, well, that's all good. They can have this happy little, but it doesn't.
But you don't get through the work, yeah.
Yeah.
It translates to greater productivity, greater growth in your business. And I think now that's why we are so proud of you come to us and this is a process and you are going to love every minute. And we know that it's got legs.
Yeah, and that's the product.
Yeah.
The home is, the house is this little percentage of that whole product.
Yeah.
And then the home is what the memories are for generation after generation after generation. And we believe our product is 5, 6, 7 generations. Like a lot of the homes we're building down there, they're building for the multiple generations, the grandkids, and then they'll probably pass it on to their children who will pass it on. And that's the product.
Yeah,
that's what we want to create.
Yeah, that's an even bigger, I guess, perspective to have on your product. It's the journey with us now, and it's the continual impact that this is going to have for generations.
Yeah,
that's our product.
A client said it to me on site the other week, and that's probably where a few of those moments have come from. And she said, well, we've had just over 30 years of memories in this house, and so they've got children that have been raised in that house. And she said, but I'm really excited because my kids are going to have another 30 years of memories in the new home. And we were like,
that's what
this is important. This is really important.
When you start thinking about
product.
it like that, it's
this
way
is
bigger.
Life, and this is so critical. And that's why we always say, the homes that we're creating are this vessel for connection for people. They generally go in with the intent of saying, I want to build a house that forces the kids to come home because they want to come home, and our friends come here because they want to come here. And the reason is when you create the opportunity, then the events happen and the people come and we have conversations and we have dinner and we make memories. And at the end of the day, I think the most valuable thing that all of us have are those memories, and that home just becomes the vessel for that connection. Big.
Yeah, that's big. That really, really resonates with me. I've only ever heard that once ever. That in terms of the way I heard it was what you said there, but they were saying if you can create a home that people want to come, the kids want to come, then they, rather than go to friends' houses, they're inviting their friends want to come, then imagine like the impact that you potentially get to have because of those positive interactions that your family's having on that kid or that kid's family means that then you're having such a positive impact then on the community. You don't know what impact that'll have on that kid when they grow up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's
big.
That's big. And that's why we talk about the stakes are really high in what we do. And the reason is, well, I think there's this logistical challenge that we're always talking about. We're trying to get millimetre precision on something that we're making 100 decisions on for 6 months later. But the stakes are really high because this is someone's home. This is not a house. And I think we learnt that early days because we started in small-scale renovations. At the beginning, I'd say nearly all of our clients lived in the house whilst we were renovating.
Yeah. Okay.
And at the same time, we were renovating homes that we lived in. So I firsthand understood it from, I was the client, I guess, when the trades turn up to the house. And so we always had this mandate that it was like, well, at the end of the day, they stop and the guys vacuum the whole house.
Yeah, I don't care if it takes 2 hours. You wipe down the benches. We have all the dust sheets up, but you make sure that it's all cleaned up at the end of the day.
Because this is someone's home that they're living in and they have to get up and make their kids breakfast on that table. And you're probably turning up to work as they're still in their pajamas making their kids breakfast. Like what we do is really invasive. We are in people's most private, safe space. Yeah. And
so we probably learned that early days.
We did learn that really early on. And now, even though, we're building things and there's no one living there, we say to the guys, you treat this as if it was your home. And our guys, one of them said it in the team thing. They're like, I treat everything we do as if it was my own. I'd love it to be mine. Like, this would be awesome. And they
leave like the last day of the week. if you walk onto the site on a Saturday or a Sunday, it's neat as a button. Like, even though it's a frame, it's just
It's that level of care. This is someone's home. Even if it's a frame, they walk in on a Sunday, and they're like, let's go look at the house. And they're super excited. It's their home.
Next time you guys are on the podcast, because it'd be a whole other topic, but Conor and I were chatting about this morning, is the idea of personal brand, but just the extent and the depth and the breadth of what that means. To some builders, it's, I've got a logo. It's on the side of my car. And it's like, it's a bit more than just that.
Yeah.
And you guys, hearing all this, definitely understand that. The values side of things, the values that you guys uphold, stand by, translates, it is in what you do. It's in you two, it's in your team, but it's also in your trades. And when you build that team, like we talked earlier about building that team for grand final, because grand final for you guys is every day you step out on site. How does that flow? How do you go about picking the right trades to know that without you on site, it's still getting done to the same level that you would want it done?
Yeah, so most people we've employed, we know either personally
or from the football club.
through the community, or indirectly through, like, I might know their father, for instance. So you have a good understanding of their values, and that's really important. We don't hire quickly. We're quite slow at hiring, and sometimes to our detriment. But the advantage of that is that we're really bringing in people that we feel uphold the culture, and then we're very clear. So, for instance, we've got a trade that's sort of semi-retiring at the minute, and we have to find someone to take their place. So once we have that level of commitment, we give them all our work. So there's that level of trust. Is like, hey, you're doing the right thing. You've bought into the culture. Get the next job, the next job, the next job, the next job, and keep doing the right things. And we articulate that on the phone. It's like, we've never worked with you before, been on your Instagram, followed a couple of jobs that you're doing. You really sound like a good fit for us. Can you just quote these couple of jobs? And then, all going well, and this is how we operate. If you fit within the team,
you're on the team.
This is 20 years. You're going to be doing this for us for 20 years. And I think that conversation before they even come on gets them in the right mindset that, okay, all right,
I'm going to approach this with a 20-year mindset.
Correct.
Not just to win the next job.
Yeah. Again, it's not a transaction.
Yeah.
They're coming onto the team.
Yeah.
And I think we look at all of our trades as part of our team. They are part of our team. They're part of our family. We see them every day. They come to the all of our jobs. And the bonus in that is we can then teach them through natural attrition. This is how we do things. You can do things the same. Here's our values. And we've learned that the hard way along the way. There's certainly been trades that have come in and we've gone,
it hasn't worked. Yeah, so we've had trades we've had to get rid of.
There was an example I heard that you guys had someone, and pretty quick you're like, you're not a fit.
We learnt that the values didn't align. We heard groundswell of it just from site about some comments that they made around the suburbs we were working in, how much money clients have got, and that there was no value for money from their point of view. And we hit them up about it, and they didn't come back. We just said, this doesn't align.
Yeah,
your values do not align with ours. We do not treat any of our clients like that because...
Well, they didn't treat the clients bad directly.
They just had
just
no
mindset. There is trades out of there, and we try to vet them
early on.
That depending on the suburb is what quote you get.
Okay.
And we're just not about that. We'll quote the job exactly the same, no matter
price is the price.
Who we're quoting for, what suburb it is. The price is the price. That's it. That's what it costs for us to do your project.
Yes.
And then once we heard that, I hit that company up, and they said, well, that's what everyone's doing down here. And I said, well,
not us.
Not us. And they were only about 10% into the job. And it was just straight away, didn't align. And then we got the job finished by another guy who's still
working with
us today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it was, it's really important to us, and we have to make sure that, we really believe in this. So we're not going to turn a blind eye to, if they don't align with our values, then they can't be part of the team. And we're really lucky in that sense that, all
but
the guys are really good.
The industry has a really bad name.
Yeah.
Our industry has the worst reputation, and it does because of its own faults and flaws based upon lived experience proved.
Yeah.
So, of course, it has a bad name. But I feel that we've proven, and I think the opportunity is there's groundswell for this from other builders as well. There are great people doing great things in this industry, and we're so proud to be a part of that movement to say, you know what, it doesn't need to be like this. It doesn't need to be like this from the client experience, but also from the way trades behave. And we always say, just those little tiny basic things. You turn up here with the same level of respect for everyone, on-site clients, the whole thing, the way you act, the way you behave, the way you dress, turn up with a little bit of respect and you're going to get that respect back. And it works. It
Say hello to the client. They're just little things, but it's, if the client wants to take an hour to chat to you, I'm not going to ever get annoyed at you for not working for an hour.
That's okay.
Like, just take the time, realise that the client's on site. They might just want to chat. That's fine. That's we want that experience, and our guys are really good at that. We don't have any. We've only had that one issue, and it got vetted real early and
quick
out. Yeah. So
we probably have more of a vetting process now. We're like, okay, now we're at the point. Is this going to work? And I think we've figured out.
But I generally like one of the approaches you mentioned there in terms of hiring and sourcing, recruiting. Through the footy club, and you joke about it, but it's such a great environment where you get to know them pretty extensively before that conversation ever comes up would you consider working on some of our jobs. But it also means, because of your exposure to them there, you have for a long time, you can see something special, and you can begin to nurture and fuel and guide that for their best outcome. And then if the opportunity comes up, you've created a far better candidate.
100%.
That's amazing.
And the other thing that happens, and you probably only realise it after the fact, is it creates more accountability from both sides, because for most of these guys at some point they've worked together all day, like with Brendan and with others, and then they have to turn up to training that night with the same group of guys, and we've got to train together, and then on Saturday we've got to play a match together. So it's like you can't not get along. You can't do something that's not great for the team, because then next minute all your teammates are talking about it and there's this tension there. So naturally, without realising it, it was like, this works. This really works, because we're not just a work team. We're a community, and that fabric and those sort of woven parts just keep going through life.
We've got such a good network within the community now that the beauty, sometimes the pro, and it can be a con of the Mornington Peninsula, is such a small knit community that within 3 phone calls I can find out what this person's like. So if we get an application or there's someone that we've got to use, and in the custom build industry, like, there's stuff that you might have to do that you've never done before. So therefore you need a different trade. I can just make some phone calls to certain people, and the beauty of being so connected in the community is you can really get the opinions on what that person's like, what their values are like, and go, he's really suited to us. So say if we've got 3 sitting there, we'll go with him because his values are more aligned with us.
Brendan's like, I'm just going to ring the concreter because he will have worked with that person on a different builder's site, and I'll get his opinion. And then 5 phone calls later, it's like, we're on a winner. Let's go.
And that is so important. Because it just, I feel like going to that extent to vet someone just shows how much you guys genuinely care. And you genuinely care about the people in your team, and you see everyone as part of that team. And then you obviously genuinely care about the clients. And I imagine you care about them before they even sign.
100%.
Because that's going to be, you kind of have to. You can't fake that. Some people try, doesn't work out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, if you are faking, you just eventually get caught out. Like people see through that. You might get away with it once or twice, but it's not a long play. And that's where honesty and transparency is just so important. It's like, this is us. And if they're honest and transparent back to us, it's just such a good playing field to be on. Yeah.
Maybe if we go back to your product from start to generations later, which I'm loving that concept. What does the first interaction often look like for you guys when someone interacts with you?
We always say it starts with a conversation.
Okay.
Everything starts with a conversation. Someone needs to get to know us and we need to get to know them, and we need to establish that relationship first.
Yeah.
They have to be able to trust us wholeheartedly with everything. And, we spoke before about it being quite an invasive relationship. It is. They are going to hand over the biggest single lump sum of their life to us, and they have to trust us with that. And so a big part of the component is for me to say, I will treat your money as if it's my own. And trust me, I am going to manage that with every penny that I can to get you the best value. It's not about price, it's about value.
Yeah.
And I want you to be able to trust us to execute this thing that you have, because at this point, half the time it's just a thought. It's literally a vision. And most of the time they can't articulate what they want. They're like, we want to do this thing. Okay, what do you want? We don't know exactly what we want. Okay, tell us how you guys live. Who are you? Who's going to live here? Who's going to come back here? How do you want to feel when you come to this house? And if we instantly can have a shared vision for what this project is going to be and what this process is going to be, it's a winner. And
we're really lucky that we're sort of at the stage where we've got to where a lot of our clients have engaged us before. So we have the initial conversation and then before the concepts come, we're engaged. So it's like there's a full trust there, but it allows us to come up with the concepts of exactly what they want and go through that journey rather than I've got my concept plans, floor plan, whatever. Now I need to go find a builder. And there's just been so much that's been missed in that early stages. And I feel like that's why there's so much joy at the end of it, because they've had so much input in the initial concept. And we've seen that, and that's where we're learning, and that's why we try to provide the service that we do is people come with their concept drawing, and then as you start talking about what it looks like to build in that, they're like, I'm not really happy with that. So we've been really lucky that initial conversation, we get to know each other. Yeah, this is a good fit for you, and it's also a good fit for us. Because we want to feel comfortable with the people we're working with as well. Now, what does that journey look like? And we'll start working on your home. And I think that's really important rather than just a concept. Let's go speak to 3 builders, see what the quotes land in at. But there's no emotional piece there.
Yeah. Bringing that emotional piece, I know we've had some chats around this when it comes to the quoting stage. And again, your perspective of always asking questions. Why is it being done this way, and how can it be done differently to better service and fit in with the values of your guys' company?
Yeah.
What did that look like in terms of shifting or changing the way you went about creating and presenting the quotes to clients?
I remember when we very first started, like before we'd even started the business as such, and I saw a quote that Brendan's dad had done that they were working on together, and it sort of came across the table, and it was an A4 sheet of paper. It had like 2-3 sentences on it, and it just had a lump sum number at the bottom, which was a couple of $100,000 for a renovation, and that was it. And I was like, is that all they get? And I was like, yeah, that's what they get. It's like, we're going to do an extension on the back and it's $350,000. And I was like, how do they know what they're getting and where the value, what components are costing that, and how did we get to this sum of money? Because at the end of the day, the price is the price. There is a certain element of every project, whether it's in a renovation or a custom new build today, the price is what it's going to cost to build. How did we get to that point is really important. And so it was just like, that's what the industry does. And then from the client side, there would be this little bit of pushback, not just from our clients, but within the industry to say, well, can you break that down for me? And they would go, oh, no, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, why?
There's no issues with doing that.
Why wouldn't you do that? Oh, because then they know what your electrician's charging. And I'd say, so what? You say that's how much it costs for my electrician to come in and do this work.
And then you've morphed that now into the back end on our cost plus projects where we get an invoice from our electrician and the client sees it the exact same time we see it. Okay. So it's just, that is the transparency.
It's as transparent as can become. Because I said, if somebody can have full understanding of how did we get to this number at the bottom, they can understand it. And the reason it's important to understand it is because we have to value manage. All of our clients, even when we're building similar homes and they are similar demographic, everyone values something differently. And what's really important is to get to know them and to say, where do you want to push and pull? Like, what part of this is so important that we're going to go, this product is expensive, I'm putting it out there, but you are going to love it and it is so worthwhile and it's going to tick everything you want. Okay, this is how much that's going to cost. Yeah. But I know that you guys don't necessarily care so much about this. How about we bring in something else?
Yeah.
And I think the fear always was a fear of the customer going, oh, well, I'll get someone else to do that part. Now we're at the point where it's like, well, you can't do that because if you want to work with us, this is our team. Yep. And the reason we have a team is because they're the best at what they do and they all work together and get along and we do not upset that apple cart.
I imagine you'd probably get some pushback every now and again when you go like, because some people can flip that and go, oh, you mean like it's your way or the highway. But obviously it's about communicating that. Have there been scenarios ever where you've gone, yes, it is this way because, and I put notes here, because in terms of articulating it in a good way, my thought would be, if you want the outcome, then following our process can get you that outcome.
Yep. Well, we had pushback early on our cost plus stuff, didn't we? And then the clients have loved it and then told their friends who have never done cost plus before is like, this is actually a really good way to build because one, it's fully transparent.
Yeah.
There's no delays in variations or anything like that, but you've asked for what you wanted and that's exactly what it costs. There's no hidden agendas. There's no contingencies built into the quotes. It just is agreed at the start. And I think now there's less pushback on that because of the word of mouth and the process that they're just like, it now becomes about what they want and how they want to feel. And that we still quote the job before cost plus. We still quote the job as if it was a normal job. We go, that's what we think it'll cost. There's all the breakdowns, and we work through that as we go. And then there's, if they add stuff to it, but then they'll see like we allowed X amount for carpentry, and it's currently at this, and it's just like a total. So there's still that transparency of. We don't just get to the end and it was $2 million. You know what I mean? Like we think
there's
it's going to
There's a process along the way.
And I think they really enjoy that, and we're getting less kickback now because people prefer the honesty to get the right outcome rather than the opposite, which is we walked away from a job because it was becoming a really nice build on a tricky site. And it was becoming a race to the bottom, and we'd been talking for 6 months.
It was
backwards and forwards between us and another builder, and it was just becoming a race to the bottom. And we just like said, I want to be able to build and go into that site knowing that I can hand over what I'm proud of. I don't want to cut corners, and I want them to experience our experience. And I think we're just going to walk away from this because it's
we
not
knew
it's
that
not
they
a right
were never
fit.
going to be happy at the end of the process. And so it's like, if you're not going to be happy, what's the point of us all going into this and it just ending terribly? We confidently know that our process works. It is the best value, and that's a really important word, I think. The price at the end of the day is this culmination of a whole lot of materials, which nobody can really vary. There's very minimal variance in that. The product is going to cost something. And then the value, though, is are you getting exactly what you want with that value management in there that you can sit back and go, this is perfect. It's what I wanted. And that's really important. And then I think the trust component comes back into that. So the fear in this cost plus environment is you guys are just going to take me for a ride and next minute it's going to blow out. Yeah. And so there's a trust component there, and that's where for us it's really easy. We have the most amazing team. Hand on heart, we have the best team. Yeah. They're the hardest workers because they love what they do. They come to work and they say to us, we just want to work as hard as possible and walk away and go, wow, look at what we did this week. And when our clients see that, every week at the moment, somebody will say, far out, they're working hard.
Yeah, we just started a job at the minute and the guy knows us through multiple clients, but we've just started the job and 1 week in, he's like, whoa, the boys got through a lot. And I'm like, well, they come and they work hard. And that job's a cost plus. Yeah. And already a week in, we've got his full trust because he knows that we're there working hard. That's the only kickback on the cost plus is that there is trades within the industry that take advantage of that.
Okay.
So I don't have to work that hard because I'm just clocking in, clocking off. So if it takes me 5 days rather than 3, it doesn't matter. But our boys we always say our trades work really hard, but you don't ever compromise on the quality.
Yeah.
So if it takes that little bit extra time, that's fine. But there's a difference between taking your time and making something be great and then just taking the mickey and not working hard enough. Do you get what I mean? It's that real fine balance, and that's where the culture piece comes into it.
It's really important because 2 things can happen too, and this is what we always say. It comes back to if you put the client at the centre of all of this. If we go into this saying, I guarantee you are going to love this process and I guarantee you're going to be happy with what you've paid for, at the end of the day, they're going to tell their friend and tell their neighbour and tell their next friend, and they're going to say they were the hardest working team we could have had. And that's worth an infinite amount. Or we can not have those deep-rooted values. We can go into this, they can get to the end and they can say, I would never work like that again because I didn't feel I was getting value. It's like, do the right thing. Put the client back in the centre. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's, I just think it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. When it comes to you guys, when it comes to Dunne, what's next? What's exciting? What do you, when you think of, I think you guys have accomplished a lot and I hope the guys those who are listening to this have felt that. Yeah. And I love that your continual experiences translate always into lessons. All right, how can we do it differently? How can we do it better? Which then makes everything better. So I'm intrigued to know what excites you guys about tomorrow, next year.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to really fine tune the team. I think there's still some work we can do in creating a nice team, probably at the back end side, and what that looks like. And then in terms of what we love about the custom build industry is every job's so different. Yeah. So the house that we are speaking to a client about tomorrow is so different to the one. So they all have, X amount of bathrooms, X amount of bedrooms, but each build is so different. And every job, there's at least one thing that we need to go source from overseas or wherever because it's slightly different, and that really excites me. It's like what's happening tomorrow. I know that excites our boys that love the craftsman side of it. It's like
what's unique about this home?
This job, boys, we've got to machine our own door jambs and put them through the thicknesser and machine them because there's this detail we just can't get, and they're just like, that's awesome. Let's go do that. So that really excites me, and I'm excited to see what the growth, we're diving into the deep end a bit with you guys and stuff like that. And I'm really excited to see where that takes us. Yeah. And it's always growth. It's like, I'm excited to meet new people. I'm excited to see where the team goes. I don't want to be building 200 houses a year. That's not where I see this going. Yep. I want it to grow, but I also want to be able to provide what our quality and our values are. And I'm excited to see where that lands us. I think we've got a real opportunity to grow our team and solidify our relationships within the community and stuff like that. And I do have a big dream, which I'm not sure whether we should put on here or not, but we've always wanted our own homewares thing. So it was a big part of the Dunne brand too, and not having it as constructions or anything like that. It's because we love and so passionate about how people feel within their homes and that. We've always spoken big dream about potentially having our own home brand.
Totally.
And what that looks like, we don't know. But that excites me.
Yeah.
And that's a long vision, but it's you always need something that you're sort of reaching for.
Well, when you guys are ready to launch, we'd love to have you guys back on here to discuss that.
We'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. So that's that for me. That's what I'm excited about. Yeah.
I think every time we go through a project, we continuously stand back and go, I'm so excited. I wish I could do that again because here's 5 things that we would do differently. And that is so exciting. It's like every new project you go, we can do it this way now. And not from a how would we build it necessarily, but how would we do that process different? How would we have these interactions different? And I think the design piece is a huge growth sector for us. We have just we brought it in a really small component and we did small things. And now we have the capacity that someone can come to us with nothing but an idea, a vision. I want to build a home. Okay. And we can work with them from the very beginning through the entire design process of the house design, the interiors. We can document that. We can select everything within inside that, and then we can build it. And you just turn up at the end and it's there. And that piece is so exciting for me, and to really grow that to say, you don't have to go and find anyone else.
Yeah.
You can do all of that here with us. Yeah. And it's going to be the best experience because you get to come to us for every little step of that process. And every job we do, I continuously come back and I'm like, we're going to do it this way next time, and we're going to add this in. And we add things in as we go to that process too. And I just continuously say, how do we make this better? And that's exciting. It's super exciting.
That is epic. That is awesome. Well, a big thank you to both
Thank
you,
you.
Sam, Brendan from Dunne, to come on here and talk about you guys, where you've come from, how you guys conduct yourselves and provide huge value to your clients, and where you guys are going.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thanks for having us.
us.